G20 in Africa. Exclusive Channel Africa. Championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
This must be our penultimate G20 feature, with the G20 summit coming in a really short while, the 22nd and the 23rd of November in Nasrec. And this afternoon, as we do between Channel Africa, Africa in Business, and SAFM's The National Pulse, we focus on some of the key topics and key issues that the G20 concerns itself with. And today, as the G20 agenda shifts towards practical action and digital skills, the urgency of closing the gap for youth employment as well as innovation across Africa continues to be an area of focus. Martin van der Zee, who is strategy lead Group Technology at Sanlam, says even though there are efforts among participants in the 2025 G20 and B20 task forces to develop integrated and actionable responses to the demands of a new digital era, the continent's response requires extensive realignment of policies, of institutions, as well as resources that can drive the realization of the benefits that technology enables. And I tell you what, John Gericke, as we continue focusing on this, I'm sure this is also something that's really going to be coming out on the weekend of the 22nd.
Yeah, we had a conversation. Tech Africa has been on the go down in Cape Town over the last couple of days as well, and this is one of their highlights as well, is trying to close that gap in Africa. And as Van Zee continues to say, that gap threatens growth and widens the disparities as adoption of tools such as AI accelerates in developed economies at a pace that surpasses our continent, and that public-private partnerships can offer that needed solutions. However, he's emphasized that these collaborations must prioritize developing digital skills, creating job opportunities, we need those, and promoting economic participation, especially in fintech, at a faster pace.
So let's get into the how of all of this. And for this conversation, we joined this afternoon by Martin van der Zee, strategy lead Group Technology at Sanlam. A very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Africa in Business and the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Tammy. Thanks for having me. And hello to your listeners as well.
Martin, G20, B20, these big task forces, they all get together. How are they going to shape Africa's approach to closing this digital skills gap?
Yeah, John, I think it's probably been our biggest focus at the moment is Sanlam, is how do we move beyond the talk and the policy and just drive straight into action? How do we just do more as opposed to talk more? Because you are right, I think one of you said that gap is widening significantly. The rest of the world is accelerating. And if we get left behind, it's a bit of a compounding effect. So, I mean, I think one thing that stood out for us is the public-private partnership is key. The private sector can't sit on their hands about this and do nothing about it. They actually have to invest and take a bit of risk and lead and do their part in it. So I think that becomes quite key. And then, we've got some wonderful financial institutions and other institutions doing practical things about this. I mean, if you look at someone like AWS, they've got the skills center in the city center where you can walk in, get skilled up on cloud and AI and other things, and walk out and get linked up with opportunities. Or someone like CodeSpace, who instead of taking you through a traditional university 3-4 years, they'll put you on a 6-month crash course and teach you how to code. And there's a lot of bursaries and other such mechanisms they use to give people with fewer opportunities a chance. And they've got a really successful placement rate where an organization can sponsor that person, they get upskilled and they begin delivering. So there's certainly practical things out there. I suppose we just need a few more of them.
And as you mentioned that, Martin, it just becomes so much more apparent how learning has changed and how capacitating yourself for a career and being able to make an impact in the world, how that has evolved. It's not business as usual. But I wonder if there's alignment between the discussions that you've been having, the G20, B20, you've been having these ongoing discussions around digital transformation. But is your agenda aligned with Africa's own frameworks, such as the African Union's digital transformation strategy?
I think so. I think it's just not into action yet. I think we just really have to take that next step, and hopefully that's what next week entails. I mean, and Africa has got brilliant success stories. I mean, it's Ghana's 1 million coders initiative, right? That was incredible, what they managed to achieve there. And if you've spent any time in Kenya or Nigeria, you will see the youth actively participating in the digital economy and upskilling themselves. So I think it's aligned, but I think again, it's the action that's missing, and I suppose that's where we can learn from the likes of Vietnam and others. But I mean, a couple of the Sanlam team were in Vietnam recently, in line with our partnership with Time, and one of them said when he went out on a Friday night, he says that there wasn't a lot of partying. There was just young people, the youth, sitting in coffee shops writing code. And he thought that was amazing. And we all thought, imagine it could be like that on this side.
Oh, it's a different kind of party.
Yeah, it's a different body. Yeah.
Yeah, we need cheap data. We need cheap data. There are the worries about the big boys not coming to the G20. Donald Trump skipping out. Mexico adding their name in there. Argentina. I see China's getting in, pulling out as well. So the remaining countries, how can they help close this digital divide? And how important is that partnership with the really rich countries on the planet?
I think it's really key. I mean, we're a little bit behind in many respects for many reasons, but we do have a lot of interest from the rest of the world to try and see Africa succeed. There's also that little hidden agenda that Africa is the next sort of horizon of growth, right? So there's a lot of people interested in pushing into Africa, and we see it more and more daily with our institutional investors. I think they can help with capital and experience and platforms. And then getting those core infrastructure things right. If you don't have data and you don't have cloud credits or AI credits, you're just not going to learn. So they can come a long way in helping us to just put very practical infrastructure in place and platforms that then let us do something with it and sort of accelerate it.
And that word practical coming out of your mouth once again this afternoon, Martin. And on that issue of practicality, what role should the private sector and particularly businesses that are represented in the B20, what role should they be playing in translating this global policy into tangible training and job opportunities across Africa? So the kind of date nights that we're having are the kind of date nights that they're having in Vietnam. And there's this culture of digital culture of data and learning and innovation that becomes trendy amongst the youth, but also just so accessible.
Accessible, that's the key thing. And I think that's part of our role is making tech and digital learning platforms accessible, and not just your slideshows or online courses, but things where people can dig their hands into and their minds into. And the word bandied around a lot is regulatory sandboxes, but those are AI and cloud and data platforms that are made accessible to people where they can sign up, run practical courses or with ChatGPT next to them to learn something practical, and then present it back to industry. And then industry either give them an opportunity with that or employ them. And then I think the second thing is that industry and companies must take risk, right? You have to hire and invest into people that might not work out, or maybe they're not the best, but you take a chance on them and upskill them and give them a chance. And then pushing into programs like CodeSpace and AWS to expand that horizon is quite key as well. But I think it's mostly about giving people a chance and investing into programs. And what's interesting is if you invest into the youth and you look at other countries like India, they pushed a lot of digital training into youth. And I think the unemployment rates amongst youth went down from 9 to 4%. But they also got massive financial inclusion off the back of that, because the youth build for the youth and the youth build for digital. So yeah, we certainly have a very pragmatic responsibility to do something and not just talk from the sidelines.
I'm very confident. I mean, I was playing around creating my own website using AI the other day, and if I can do it, then I'm imagining young people who are brought up on the internet can do it. What makes you so confident that this is all within the continent's grasp?
I think if you meet enough people in South Africa and Africa, you build this this crazy confidence. I mean, I don't know if you saw a video posted by Rassi the other morning on his Twitter after we beat France. and that made me extremely patriotic. But it was a deep hope that we have the dog in us to fight and to drive and to move. But then you just have to spend a little bit of time in Kenya and Nigeria and others, Morocco. I mean, the youth are keen and they're on fire. They just need to be given the opportunity. So meet enough people, and you'll see the deep skills and the young population we have. We can do this, man.
Are there any projects that we could look to, Martin, on the African continent? You mentioned Kenya, Nigeria, Morocco, and we've been speaking a lot about South Africa. But projects that you believe are quite turnkey or worthy of being put on the best practice scale that the continent is already implementing, because we know the innovation is there, the talent is there, the opportunity is what's needed, and the infrastructure to allow young people to be able to innovate.
Yeah. So I think there's a few programs around zero-rated data for specific resources that just give people access, and spreading infrastructure to areas where people don't necessarily have it. I mean, hopefully Starlink now with their recent news helps us get there. So perhaps they can come to the party and give Africa some internet access. Um, then I think very practically as well, a lot of the money that gets poured into technology ventures comes from big hedge funds or VC funds. But we do need a bit of capital to push into maybe not 10x companies that every private equity firm is looking for, but maybe 10x return in social and capital and skill capital that we can give people a go and let them try something in the markets. And if they fail, they fail. But at least we've built some skill in people and moved. And then I really think the guys at CodeSpace have got something right. To put someone into a fully developed engineer to go and code in financial services enterprise in 4 to 6 months for very low cost is something we have to offer and possibly push people away. I'm not saying don't go to university, but with the sort of digital skills that are now in demand, getting to market quicker is a hell of a lot easier. And I mean, someone said to me at work the other day, but how can I get skilled on AI? I don't have any resources. And I was like, use AI to build yourself a training plan, and then you'll get skilled. So yeah, but the key thing is people need sponsorship on those resources, and I think that's where the G20 countries and enterprises can come to the party.
I was going to say, you mentioned data, but even a laptop is well beyond the reach of a young kid
Exactly.
in the Eastern Cape or anywhere in the continent who wants to just get onto the internet.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
So the practical hardware is quite key as well.
yeah, and talking about that, could you highlight perhaps, Martin, some of the other main barriers that you see to implementing these global digital skills strategies across the continent?
I think that John probably summarized it well, is just in terms of infrastructure and channels to do so. And then we are very rural in many senses. We are split quite far and spread wide. We're not highly concentrated with the likes of India, Vietnam. So India does have quite a rural aspect. But it comes down to capital as well, and building up more metropolitan and developed areas that we can actually give people to have access to that. So yeah, it's definitely a problem worth solving, but not an easy one.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Martin van der Zeer, Strategy Lead Group Technology at Sanlam. Thank you very much.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa and SAFM, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
So that was our weekly G20 feature focusing on digital skills.